6 countries, 42 days, and a mix of points and dollars. Here is exactly how we booked our dream honeymoon and made every penny and point count. My husband and I got married in June of 2023, and from late June to early August, we went on our honeymoon around Europe and Africa. That wasn't the original plan. A lot of things changed between when we booked and when we left. In this video, I want to show you how we booked our trip, and it won't be necessarily a step-by-step guide on how you could replicate the same thing, but more of the ideas and approaches that we used to make a trip like this happen, how we were set ourselves up earlier to be able to make the decision that we were able to make for this trip. So no, the honeymoon wasn't free, but we were able to stretch our dollars for 42 days. And by the end of this video, you will know exactly how to make that happen. At the end, there will be a breakdown of how many points and miles we used, how much money we spent, and what that equivalent should be if we paid for the whole thing in cash. Why we went on a 42-day international honeymoon. So a lot of the reason for why our honeymoon was structured the way it was because of timing. Our wedding was at the end of June. There were a lot of things that had to happen in order for our trip to become what it was. So the first thing that happened was Virgin Voyages actually released a deal to book cruises using points. And at that time, we had actually been looking to do a Virgin Voyage cruise for our honeymoon, you know, no kids, really cool destinations. They're more expensive than maybe a Royal Caribbean or another type of cruise. So we hadn't pulled the trigger on it yet. But one day, at the time, my fiance, he was taking a nap, and this deal came in front of me, and before he woke up, I had transferred, it was 100,000 points into Virgin Red, and you could book a balcony room for 2 for a 7-night voyage, and we did the French days in Ibiza night. So it left out of Barcelona, and we went around the south of France, like the French Riviera area. So for 100,000 points, for 7 nights on a cruise, for 2 people, it was an incredibly good deal. You basically claim the voucher, and then from there you can pick your cruise. So those cruises only left on Sundays. We got married on a Sunday, and we had to book the cruise, and it had to leave before July. So if we got married on the 18th on a Sunday, there was only 1 Sunday left. We left on June 25th. So the absolute last cruise that I would have been able to take using this deal. The second thing that happened was one of my friends was visiting her family in Ghana, and they were gonna get there I think they were going to get there like the day that our cruise landed. They said, do you want to come? And we're like, well, if we've already crossed the ocean. We're already over here. Let's extend the trip a little bit. Our round trip flight was in and out of Madrid. So we had that flight booked from Madrid. Let's extend the trip a bit, fly down to Accra, hang out with them, and then we'll just fly back to Madrid, and then we'll go home. So now we have a little bit longer trip, but that's doable. We can do it. So these are all plans. Besides the cruise, nothing has been booked. So that is our plan. It needed to be booked. I was procrastinating. I hadn't booked it yet, but that was the plan. Then you add in my other friend was getting married, and I was maid of honor in her wedding, and she was getting married in Germany 2 weeks after our cruise ended. So we were going to spend, instead we're like, okay, we'll spend 2 weeks in Ghana, and then we'll go to Germany and spend a week there for all the wedding festivities. So now is when we realized that this trip, we have lost the original plot of the story. Was it a honeymoon? Yes. But we were like, why fly back when we have to just fly to Munich anyway? I'm telling you the thought process so you can see how we got from 7-day cruise to 42-day adventure, okay? I hope I can make some sort of graphic where this all makes sense. But just stay with me. It's all gonna, I want you to get the how to think about these things so you can realize that when you have the flexibility, you can plan some pretty elaborate trips just using points and miles and not spending a ton of money or as much money as you would have to normally. Okay, so we have cruise, we have Ghana, and we have wedding in Germany. Now, the wedding day was, or the next day of the wedding was my husband's birthday. And then 8 days later was my birthday. And I'm sure you know where I'm going with this. If we're already over there and in 8 days is our birthday, then let's just extend the trip again. But you know what? I'm getting ahead of myself because that decision was not made until we got there. I think I've lost the plot of the video too. Hold on. Okay, so that is all in all what happened. Here is the timeline for how things were booked, okay? I booked the cruise while he was napping. When he woke up, I said, guess what we're doing? Then we booked a round trip flight from Dallas to Madrid because that was the logical flight to have. And the flight was supposed to come back maybe 4 days after the cruise. Then I booked a one-way from Barcelona to Ghana. And at that point, for the airline we had booked the flight with, the way that their changes were, it had to be the same route. We couldn't change the city. I could just change the date, and we had to fly from Madrid to Dallas. That was sort of floating in the air. I didn't know what to do with it. I just left it alone. Booked a flight to Ghana. I realized while editing this video that I actually never went back and addressed that. So the reason I mentioned that was because since I couldn't change the flight from Madrid back to Dallas, what I did was I rescheduled it for a year later. So just a random date in June in 2024. And it was something I was just going to deal with later. So we ended up using that flight home for our 1-year anniversary. But that's what I was getting at is they wouldn't let me, the reason I didn't reschedule it right then is because there were no available dates for that flight in the time frame we needed. So I was like, I just have to use it another time. And I just moved it to a year. And I was like, either I'll use it next year or I'll move it forward another year. So yeah, this is me in post-production coming to let y'all know that. From there, I booked a flight from Ghana to Germany that had a layover in Amsterdam through KLM, but KLM's hubs are Amsterdam and Paris. Remember that for later. Not important right now, remember for later. So now we've got flight Ghana to Germany. And then from Germany, we had no flights. No flights to get anywhere. At some point we were like, we'll figure it out. But that was our end destination we are in Munich, and that what was booked when we left, okay? All right, we're gonna pause that part and I'm going to tell you about what the strategy was for the points and miles. Our points and miles strategy. At this point, it is 2023. I got into the hobby in 2019, so a lot of the points I had accumulated, I really hadn't used on travel since the pandemic hit and we just hadn't been traveling as much. So I had a mixture of Chase points, American Express points, and Capital One points that were essentially just sitting there. And the perk of having points that have flexible redemption options is we weren't just locked into, I only have points that I can use on American Airlines or United. I could transfer these points to where I needed them, whether it was a flight, whether it was a hotel. I had the flexibility to use them where I needed. So I used a couple of different sites. This was a few years ago. So at the time, Point.me was one of my favorite tools. It had just recently come out too, so I think I paid maybe about the $6 for 1 month, and then a lot of our flights we booked in like one night. It was just a lot of sitting in front of the computer, transferring points and booking and transferring and booking, and same with the hotels. We did a lot of Hyatt hotels that we could transfer Chase points to. So we really just went where the deals were, including we had one date that we had to hit to get over there. We needed to get there by the cruise, but as far as how far in advance, we went with the cheapest option. So if it was cheaper to leave 2 days in advance versus 1 day in advance, that's the flight we took because we wanted to really stretch how far our points went because we knew this wasn't going to be our last time traveling. We wanted to do more traveling and we weren't trying to just use all of our points because we had them. So the strategy was we transferred the Amex. I did a mixture of Amex and Chase points for the cruise, and then Chase points went to the Hyatt and a mixture of Amex and Chase for different flights. And then for some that we didn't necessarily have points with, or if it was cheaper, there were some hotels that it was cheaper to book in the Chase booking portal or the Amex booking portal or the Capital One booking portal versus going directly through the hotel and using points that way. So it was just a lot of back and forth searching to figure it all out. I also have notes. I wrote down as much as I could to try and fit this all because the way that it worked made my brain hurt, but your brains aren't going to hurt because you don't have to go through it like I did. You'll have all the tools, and that's what's important. Hello. Yes, it's me again. And unfortunately, watching it back, it is still making my brain hurt. So please let me know the best way to clarify this for you all because I see how my brain was working, but throughout the video, I can tell there's a lot of information. So this will sort of be just where everything lives. And then I can be more specific about different topics in other videos. But at least this video does contain everything. I can say that. And if you're following it, I mean, you've made it this far, a real one, thank you. You're the best. But yeah, just let me know. Let me know what you need. And I'm there. Okay. Another thing to remember is for a lot of points bookings, the change fee and cancellation fee is different than if you were paying with cash. So for a lot of airlines, we were able to make a change, like a date change for free. Sometimes we could extend layovers for free. Sometimes the change fee was maybe $50 to $75, but for us, that was significantly cheaper than booking a new flight. For example, we were in Ghana for 10 days. It was supposed to be for 14 days. But then once my friends left, we were like, wait, who are we gonna hang out with? And our flight out of Ghana was from Accra to Amsterdam to Munich. That was the layover. I know that KLM has 2 major hubs, Paris and Amsterdam, and they allow free stopovers. So what I did was I called and I was able to change some of the tickets to Ghana to Paris, extend the layover for 4 days, and then from Paris to Munich. That's how we ended up in Paris for 4 days. And we were there during Bastille Day, which we didn't know. So I wish that was planned, but we got to see the fireworks in front of the Eiffel Tower. It was lovely. Just was not a part of the original plan, but that's where the flexibility came in. As we said, oh, we have 4 days. I needed to get a dress altered. I need to get my nails done. My husband had never been to Paris. I love Paris. We said, let's see if we can make this part of the trip happen. Let's change the flight, extend it. Fly on, birdie, fly on. So that's where we're at. So here is my best attempt at a step-by-step breakdown of how we booked everything. So if we go back to the beginning, cruise already been booked. Now we have to focus on flights and accommodations. For flights, we started with point.me, and I also like to use Flight Connections. Flight Connections is a website that shows you where hubs are in different cities, what airlines fly where. So I would look at from Dallas to the city I was going to, or let's say I wanted to fly to Munich, from Munich or to Munich, and see where the hubs are in America, or Madrid and see where the hubs are in America. That way I can sort of reverse search, because I know that I can get a pretty cheap flight from Dallas to Atlanta, from Dallas to New York, from Dallas to somewhere on the coast to make that second flight. I use Flight Connections and point.me to sort of piece together where the flights would be, and I had a running total of how many points we needed and where I could transfer them from, because I knew how many we had in each of the accounts. Now, it's been a couple of years. Points, is really good, as well as Award Tool are 2 more tools that I would have used if I knew about them back then, but I would definitely use them now. Kara and Nate also just released an award booking tool. So all of those would be good to at least start doing some practice searching and gathering research. So when it comes time to book the full trip, you know what you're doing and you know kind of how things look. So you know, oh, this price seems high when I would normally search and it would come up with like 20,000 points lower. I bet I can find a better price if I keep looking. So that is another reason why like just getting familiar with these different tools is helpful. The second part is how we booked the hotels. So my husband did a large portion of our hotel booking, and then I focused on flights. Once I got a ticket to fly to a city, he would start looking at, first he would look at Hyatt, because we do like to stay in Hyatts whenever possible. He would look for Hyatt, see if there were any for the amount of points we wanted to spend. Sometimes we would look at Hilton, because we have some Hilton points, but their rooms points prices are just really high. And then he would look at the travel portals and see if there's something we can book through a travel portal and maybe get some more points for, or be able to use points and redeem for the stay. So yes, we stayed at a mix of Hilton, Hyatts, and boutique hotels, plus our friends' family's Airbnb when we were in Ghana. Yes, those are the accommodations. So the second part about this whole booking is, like I mentioned at the beginning, some of this was booked before, but once we were in Ghana and made that change to Paris, most of that had to be booked on the fly. The time between when we changed the flight and when our flight left from Ghana, it was maybe 4 hours. So in that time, my husband was able to go in, and I think he booked our hotel for this one through the portal, and he was able to find a nice hotel room off by the Arc in Paris for 4 nights, and it was reasonable. So that was sort of how we tag teamed being able to book last minute and have a place to stay. And then once we were in Paris, that's when I made sure that the flight to Munich was working. And then after the wedding, we were like, let's stay in Munich for 4 more days. So then he went and was able to find some rooms at the Hilton. And so we stayed at the Hilton with points. And because I had status, we also got free breakfast and then room upgrades. From there, we decided for our birthday, we went to Amsterdam. So that was the last lengthy stop on our trip. I found tickets to Amsterdam and he found us our hotel, and that was the end of our stay. After that, we flew to Canada for a layover and then came back. As far as transportation and activity goes, yeah, we didn't use points and miles for any activities or transportation. We used public transportation most of the time. If not, then we used Ubers, Lyfts, or whatever the equivalent was in the country we were in. And then a lot of the activities we found on either Get Your Guide, TripAdvisor, Expedia, things like that. Okay, before we get into the grand totals of everything, I just want to give you a few tips for especially beginners in points and miles on how you can sort of strategize in your mind and think about your next or your first points and miles booking. So my first piece of advice is, even if you don't know what you want to do with your points, don't let that stop you. Start banking your points now. Get credit cards that can earn flexible points like Chase, American Express, Citi, or Capital One. And don't miss out, just because you don't have the destination planned, don't miss out on being able to use that time to collect points so that when a deal comes up, you don't have to, oh, I need to go apply for a credit card. Now I need to make the minimum spend on the credit card and then need to wait for that to post just so you can book, because by then the deal could be gone. So start earning points now so that when the good things come up, you'll be able to book them. I would recommend cards to start out with. Number 1, the Chase Sapphire Preferred. It is a really good card for beginners. It does not have a crazy high annual fee, and you can still earn a good chunk of Chase points. I also really like the Amex Gold. Since I'm using a lot of Chase points mainly for Hyatt, I use a lot of my Amex points for flight. So the Amex Gold card is really good. That also does not have that crazy high annual fee. If you want a higher end card, then you can get the Amex Platinum or the Chase Sapphire Reserve or the Capital One Venture X, which the Capital One Venture X is a wonderful card. But I can make videos on any of these if you want more information. Just comment down below. I will also have any referral links that I have in the description. It is totally fine if you don't use them. If you do, it just helps me, it supports me and supports the channel. But definitely look and make sure you are getting the best sign-up bonus possible, whether that is with my link or not. So sign-up bonuses are the fastest way to gain points quickly, but from there you can also make sure you're maximizing your spending. So putting all of your everyday purchases on that card and paying that card off at the end of the month. My second tip for beginners is be cognizant of how you are using your points. So I know some people will just take the points, apply it to a statement, use it as statement credit, and be done with it. And while that is something you can do and that is a way to use your points, that is typically one of the worst redemption values. So maybe if you have 100,000 points, that's $1,000, you can apply it to your statement credit. And yes, you did save $1,000, but when you'll see at the end, the amount of money we spent versus the points that we used is significantly different. Whenever you're booking a trip, always compare the price in the portal with the price on the website as far as points and miles go. Sometimes in the portal, it might be $400 and you can redeem with 40,000 points, but then you go straight to their website and they're like, you can redeem it for 12,000 points. So make sure you're looking at both options before you book if you want to get the best value for your points. Okay, it is finally the part we have all been waiting for, the grand total, the calculations for how much we spent using points and miles. So these are the numbers for what it costs for the two of us to be in Europe and Africa for 42 days. And the only thing that was not calculated would have been the 10 days that we stayed at our friends' family's Airbnb, because that we didn't pay out of pocket for. So it is 42 days worth of flying around and 32 days worth of lodging. So we spent in total 525,000 points and $3,800. And that includes taxes and fees. That includes a couple of cancellation and change fees for the airlines, as well as the things we booked in with points and the things we booked in cash. That is the total for both of them. So like I mentioned before, no, this trip was not free. I know of a handful of people that have spent $3,800 on their honeymoon alone, and it was only 7 days long. So for us, this was a pretty good use of our points. It's something that we've always wanted to do, spend a long period of time abroad. And since we were able to collect so many points up front and we had the 500,000 points, and this is spread across many different cards, many different banks. I have a chart of how much each thing costs for comparison, but because this was so long ago, what the estimated dollar amount would be, I actually went into ChatGPT and I had him do the calculations for me. And so that came out to, per person, it would have been $7,000 per person or $14,130 for the entire trip. And so for me, I am so glad I used points and did not pay that. It would not have been a trip that happened if we got a bill and it said $14,000 on it. So in conclusion, that is how we booked our 42-day honeymoon using points, miles, and cash, and sort of the thought process behind it, the insanity, the last minuteness of some of the flights. Thank you so much for watching this video. I am sure that my brain thought did not come across like I wanted it to. So if you have any questions, please comment them down below and I will answer them. Or if you want me to make another video diving into any of the specifics, I can also talk about any of the places we went to. We went, like I mentioned, to Madrid and Barcelona, Accra, Paris, Munich, Amsterdam, a layover in Toronto, and then back to Dallas. So I would love to make videos on any of those. I still have like some of the photos and stuff are in my albums, but yes, let me know if you could travel anywhere on points, where would it be? Or if there's a trip that you've been trying to book and you want some assistance, yeah, please let me know. I'm here to help. I want everyone to be able to see as much of the world as they would like and not have to go broke doing it. But yeah, again, I am Rachel. Thank you so much for watching this video and I will see you in the next one. Bye.